All right, guys, time for an update on the 55. So last night I kind of got everything laid out in here and made a mess on the living room floor. And trying to figure out, if I've got everything here that I need, like foam and stuff like that. I think I'm pretty good to go. I've watched quite a few videos in the past week. I do have a couple of upholstery books here I've got from my mom, and I've kind of read through those. And so I'm pretty much ready to rock. The upholstery kit I've got here is from Ciadella. I called and I had them make it to what I wanted, which I wanted the factory, 55 brow in the seat backs. I wanted the original gray straw cloth, which to me looks more like a greenish gray. So that's kind of why I went with the green pearl and the black base on the back half of the car. But anyway, this is the Alante, and I had them do a headliner for me in suede. They did the sun visors for me in suede, and the binding around it and the little hand pads that they sewed on is the same Alante. So everything turned out great. The seams look nice and straight. I'm really, really happy with them. So I've left these in a box. Of course, I pulled them out to look at everything, and I didn't take care to put them back in there nice and neat. So of course they wrinkled all to hell. But the bottom for the front seat bottom, I actually clothespinned it to the back side of my shower curtain, and I turned the water on pure hot, and I left it running about 20 minutes with the door shut. So when I walked in there a while ago, it was like a sauna. And it actually, if you'd have seen this before, I mean, I've still got a few little ones here and there, but it was as bad as that. So that actually steamed out quite a bit. So what I'll do is when I get ready to actually hog ring the cover on, I'm going to put it back in there again for another 20-minute round to kind of help loosen it up, But anyway, I do not have burlap. I know burlap is kind of the thing a lot of guys do is burlap first to cover the springs so that it doesn't tear up the foam. But I have seen some guys in a lot of the videos using vinyl, and I do have a ton of extra vinyl around here. So I'm going to go ahead and use the vinyl on it. I do have some, I think it's 1 inch. I can't remember. It's under the bed. I'll have to dig it out. But I have some high density foam. And so I'm going to hog ring the vinyl on the bottom. And then I'll go back and I'll spray glue the 1 inch foam on. And then I've got the foam kit, and I'll put it on top of that. So it'll have a lot of extra. Now I did see where David had posted a PDF file as a sticky in the interior section at try5.com. I seen that they had taken, it was like a service bulletin, and they'd put some wires underneath this way. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to go ahead and Lowe's has some steel rod down there that's about the same thickness, so I'm going to go buy some of that and run it across here and put it on just to make it a little bit more firm. I don't want it squishy. So I did pull the springs up and all that like I seen in the video, and made sure these are even. I can run my hands across. It's all even all the way across. And I actually blasted all my seat parts the other day. It was like 69 degrees outside, so I used my little portable blaster on everything, blasted everything. Now my little portable blaster, it's not as awesome as like a commercial grade one, obviously. So any place that I had heavy pitting, like down in here, and a little spot over here on the back, it kind of leaves that brown rusty looking tinge. It doesn't quite get the nice clean gray metal. But so I ended up using Pour 15. I had a brand new quart here, so I brushed my seat shells front and back. And when I went to start brushing this, I started on the springs, and it was just pulling the paint right out of the bristles, and it was running and dripping everywhere. So I just poured it right into my 2.3 needled vapor spray gun that I use for my Z-Chrome, and shot it on there. And I've still got a quarter of that quart left. So that's pretty awesome. And it turned out really, really nice. I mean, the seat stuff looks really, really great. But anyway, so that's what I got going on. I'm not going to do this during the day. This will be my evening projects after I'm showered, and I'll come in here where it's nice and warm in the house and work on my upholstery. I want to get the front seat done. That way, if I, get the car ready and it's able to be test drove, at least the front seat will be ready to stick in there and I can test drive. But I had to buy new spring packs for the front because mine were rusty and broken springs and everything else. So I just went ahead and bought 2 news of those. But anyway, pretty excited. I have put seat covers on quite a few G-bodies, the pre-sewn seat covers and stuff. This is my first Tri-5 that I've done this to. I usually have always had my seats recovered by an upholstery shop. So out here in the garage, I need to take these in the house, but this is the rest of the stuff. But you can just see out here, especially in the light out here, you can see how shiny those springs are and flat and nice they look. I mean, it just turned out great. I haven't worked on these seat springs yet where you pull them up to get everything even yet. I just blasted them and painted them basically. Now I brushed my seat shells so they didn't turn out near as slick as everything else that got sprayed. So there's a nice little thing to know. If you've got a pretty good needle on your spray gun, you can spray that pour 15. That stuff is kind of thick, but my needle's 2.3, so it was no match for that spray gun. But I've done my rear armrests as well. And the other thing I did to these was I tack welded some sheet metal in where the ashtrays go, because I am not putting ashtrays in there. Ain't nobody smoking in that car. And I ground them all flat. I didn't do it all the way around and do it like I normally would sheet metal, because foam goes over it, it's going to be covered. And anyway, so I painted the back side and the front side of those. So those are nice. I got the seat backs here. Now both my seat backs I had to do some repair. There was a couple of spot welds broke here and there. So I had to go back and clamp them with vice grips and go back and redo them. So the one thing I noticed was, especially in these seat backs, it's like a little tunnel down in here, up here and down here, and it smelled like mouse urine really, really bad. Even after I got done blasting it, it smelled like that. So what I did was I used 3 cans of brake clean, and I did it on the front bench as well. But anywhere there was inside pockets, like a channel, I sprayed it real heavy with brake clean at all different angles and just let it pour and run out. And after it dried, I stuck my nose right up there and you don't smell anything. So that was a pretty good trick to get rid of the urine on the steel seat frames. But anyway, I do have everything sprayed. I have everything kind of scattered because I started putting stuff in the house. But the only thing that I have not got ready so far is my front door panel steel armrest bases. Those are actually still have the original upholstery and everything on them. So those need to be disassembled and all that. But I do have about 1/4 of the quart left of the pour 15, so I have enough to do those as well. But anyway, I'll give you an update on the car. I've started the color sanding, well, I would say buff process, but it's just color sand. I've got 3 full days so far in this. It's not 3 days in a row, it's just 3 days. We've had, Thanksgiving, and I've worked on a customer car, and then I also, my older brother had passed away, so we had to go to his service. So I had some stuff going on basically, and then yesterday I didn't do anything. I wasn't in the mood to work on a car. I just kind of stayed in the house, and I'm just about getting burnt out again. So I need to make a push and get this thing buffed. And once this back half is buffed, I'm going to assemble just about everything I can on this back half. Because that's all I need is the body shell, the frame, and the engine, and paint the core support and get the radiator in it and the hoses and stuff on. And then I can actually start it up and move it and back it out and stuff like that. So that's the part I'm most looking forward to. But it takes me so long to color sand a car because I have my own way of doing it, and it just freaking sucks, man. But I get awesome results. It's like 10 times more work than the average guy that buffs, but I have good. In the end, it turns out good for me, so that I just keep doing it that way. And I have had a lot of guys ask me, how I buff a car, and it's just, it's pretty simple. I remember a long time ago, I had on a forum I posted about how I did a color sand and buff, and then you get all them guys that they reply and they're like, "Oh, you shouldn't have did that. Oh, well, you should try this," and "Oh, well, I would have done this." And I don't care how anybody else does it. This is the way I do it, and I've done a lot of black cars in the past 15 or 20 years, and I have my own way of doing things, and my results are awesome when they're done. So what I've noticed when I first started color sanding and buffing cars when I was a kid, that when I was done, I always seemed to have a little ripply look to it here and there. And I ended up figuring it out later that it was using these little blocks like this. And you know, when you do your body work on a quarter panel that long, you know, you block it all out. You don't use a little block like that. You use a long block. So that's exactly what I use when I color sand a buff. Now, if your body work's not spot on, you're going to go straight through. Your body work has to be dialed in first. So anyway, I use a long block, Dawn dish soap and water, obviously. And another thing I got to tell you straight up is that DuraBlock right there that is pretty much just square all the way around, that will create a suction to the car and stick. So when you try to sand, the sandpaper will stick, and then your block will roll and it'll wrinkle your sandpaper. And if you continue sanding with wrinkled sandpaper, it's going to really screw up that paint. So anyway, if you don't want to go through a lot of sandpaper, I use this one. This is another DuraBlock long block, but it's the oval one that you'd actually use here, because 56 and 7 Chevy guys are lucky because their rockers just roll under. 55 sucks so bad to try to get straight. But anyway, I use the flat side of it, and if you'll see, that end rolls, and this is a nice soft edge on the sides, so this one doesn't create a suction. So this is the one I use. Now, a lot of guys will go really, really harsh on their grades. Now, I've got 4.5 coats, heavy coats of high solids clear on here, so I've got clear on the car. So I started with 15. Now, when you start that high, you can get a lumpy look, so you have to keep going back, you know, wipe your sanding residue down with a wet rag, and while it's wet, look down it and just kind of look into the paint and stuff. I mean, it's why it takes me so long. It's sand and check, sand and check. Because even if you use that, you know, that white guide coat on there, you can have all your orange peel sanded out, but it's still gonna be lumpy. So anyway, I started out with 1500, and I do that so I don't end up having to try to get big sand scratches out. It's just easier for me. Then I go to 2000 and 2500 on these blocks. Now I'm talking just the main big flat areas that you can use that on, the roof and the main center areas. I'll use it on the doors and parts of the tops of the fenders and stuff, the hood, trunk lid. But anyway, after I'm done with 2500, I switch to the Trizax here. I go 3000, 4000, and 5000. Now, by the time you get to 5000 on that DA wet, it's already kind of polishing the paint. So when you hit it with the compound, you're already getting a shine. You know, a lot of guys I've seen through the years, they'll stop at like 2000 or 2500 and then buff. And then when you're done, you got cloudy and sand scratches and all kinds of crap. So, you know, you got to go through all the grits to get that shine that you want. But anyway, there is a time and place for them little blocks, and you know, obviously on a 55 Chevy with all these angles and curves, and you know, you can use it around the taillights and all that stuff. But I like to use this one a lot too, this oval one. This one's kind of nice for stuff. But anyway, I usually like the 1500 and the 2000, I'll X pattern just like I'm sanding body filler, and then when I get to 2500, I'll go pretty much straight, you know, lengthways with the quarter and one direction on the roof and stuff, and then I'll switch to the DA. And anyway, when you're done, especially like your first compound stage, your number one stage, go through after you're done and you wipe it off, go back and put a high-powered light up right up to that paint and look at it. If you can see any dullness, haziness, or scratches, it's not ready. You got to keep going. But what I'm saying is basically by the time you get to 5000, it's good to go. Now I know you can go higher, but I usually stop at 5000, and that's always good for me. But so anyway, if you want to know some tips and tricks on how I color sand and buff, that's how I do it. I don't care how anybody else does it. I've had good luck with the way I've come up with, and that's why I keep doing it that way. And if you've seen the video of the fireball, that's what you get when you spend the time. But not that I'm some badass buff job guy. I'm not. I'm just this. I've learned this stuff through the years myself. And I'll tell you the other biggest thing that I see to get buff and swirls is a wool pad. I do not even own a wool pad. I would never buy a wool pad. I only use foam pads, and I don't use egg crate pads either because they have those points on the egg crates. I don't like those. I only use Lake Country pads. I do have others here, but I like Lake Country. Now I messed up on eBay and I bought, these are actually the smaller diameter than the ones I needed. They still fit my my Velcro pad on my polisher just fine, but I usually get those. But they had a 6-pack, 2s and 2s and 2s, and that's what I ended up getting. I just like those, and it has a little indents to catch the junk, you know. Now I do have them. I think this is a McGuire's pad, and I like this one because it's kind of domed out, and so that has a lot of meat on around the edge. This one works good to go around your taillights and little, you know, your curved areas and stuff that you don't want to get kind of a hard edge on. So anyway, that's what I use that one for. But anyway, guys, that's how I buff. Again, don't care how you do it, but I've had a lot of guys ask me what I do, and that's what I do. So I'm going to get busy wet sanding.